Hey everybody, what's up? We are back and today we are looking at Joby Aviation. So they are a vertical aircraft takeoff company. They basically specialize in they specialize in vertical launch aircraft and very high research company. They make almost no money. They lose hundreds of millions of dollars, but ideally they are developing groundbreaking, world-changing technology. So we're going to look into them, see how their financials are doing, go over some recent news that they've had, and basically just review the company as a whole. So if you're interested, make sure to subscribe. I want to get to 200 subs by the end of this year. If I can, that would be fantastic. Um, Also, comment any companies you want me to review. I do this every single day of the week. I get to as many companies as I possibly can. So, comment below anything you're interested in, and subscribe if you haven't. Let's get into Joby Aviation. So, first of all, one thing I forgot to mention in the intro is vertical takeoff aircraft that intend to operate as commercial passenger aircraft. So, I don't know exactly what that means, but vertical takeoff passenger aircraft is something I've never seen or heard of before. So, definitely, like I was saying, groundbreaking, possibly world changing technology. Um, so definitely a lot of potential here. You can see their stock price. Let me actually zoom in here a little bit for everybody. You can see their stock price has been at a lower trading range recently, but has seen a bit of a resurgence over the past few months. It looks like, especially in trading volume, a lot more people are trading this stock than previously. So definitely something to be interested in at the very least. One thing I will say, market cap at 6 billion. So it is at a relatively healthy size. It's not exactly a small cap company. Long-term growth rate is negative. However, there's no possible way that could be because it's commercial travel with a completely new technology. Target price is at 746. We're a little bit above that at 918 right now. Let's get into the growth summary if there is one, which honestly we don't have much. But in terms of those 3-year projections, they are shockingly fantastic. So I don't know where they get these numbers from exactly, but I can't imagine it'll be too similar to the actual performance of the company, but overall, they are projecting positive things in the next 3 years. So that is definitely something good. Um, so yeah, that is definitely a good thing. But overall, let's just get into the financials and then we'll go into some of their recent reports and see how they're doing. Income statements. So you could see these. This is the past couple quarters. They really have not made any money. This is in thousands, not millions. So they made $1 million in 2023 after losing right around five or six, right around 500 million. So again, if we look right here, SG&A, research and development, is the big number here that directly correlates basically with them being negative. Apparently, they somehow had a positive net income in 1 quarter of 2023, and I really can't even explain it for the most part. Yeah, I really don't know. But their sales are basically nothing. They're still in development, so don't take into account anything from these financial statements too seriously because they are in a research phase of their company. And unfortunately, they chose to do that while going public. So it's not the greatest financially for an investor, but long term, it could really pay off. You can see their shares have been increasing every quarter. So they are partially at least bankrolling themselves by selling off or diluting more of their shares, which could be negative long term, but hopefully they start to see some uh, revenue sales growth in the next couple of years and they'll be able to turn that around or at least stop diluting. Looking at their balance sheet, if it wants to load for me, we can see some sort of interesting things. So their assets are actually decreasing, which when a company is in a development phase like this, I would honestly expect it to be only increasing. Um, Now, one thing I will say is their property, plant, and equipment is at an all-time high, as you can see at 141, I believe, million if it wants to show up for me here, but this should be in millions. So they have 141 million, a lot of cash, um, and very little debt. So they're mostly bankrolling themselves through selling their equity, which could be better than having debt. I mean, obviously debt's not good either, but at the same time, they're diluting a lot of their shareholders out of their share value. So while they're not taking on debt, which is good, they're also probably making a lot of shareholders unhappy by diluting their overall stock by millions of shares every year. So kind of a good side, bad side situation where there are some positives, but overall their assets have decreased for the past 5 or 6 quarters, which is very unexpected, honestly. And you could see that is in their current assets. So their current assets are greatly decreasing, mostly because they're using their cash. So realistically, the company honestly isn't really in any kind of asset trouble. Their property, plant, and equipment is increasing. The thing that's driving their total assets down is using their cash. So overall, not too bad. Lot of, or sorry, not a lot of debt. Obviously, very, very negative shareholder equity, as we could see, or sorry, retained earnings, as we could see here. So it'll probably take a couple of years for them to have any kind of significant revenue, but overall, this is more of a potential company rather than a fundamentally solid company. Looking into their cash flows, we can see their funds from operations are massively negative, very, very, and increasingly negative. 2 years ago, it was right around, I believe this should be in millions. It could just be thousands though, although I doubt it. So it should be 110 million, 53 million, I believe. So they are increasingly negative. Hopefully that is due to driving future growth. That's what we like. That's what we like to think at the very least. But other than that, we can see this is definitely in millions as they're selling off their stock. They're selling off a lot of capital stock and reducing a lot of debt as well with that. So they don't have a significant amount of debt, but they're issuing a ton of stock. So always something to make sure you pay attention to. I don't think there will be anything for segment history, which no, not really. They made $1 million in 2023 though, but that's about it so far. And then in terms of their ratios, there's really nothing that we can gain or no value we can gain from looking into this. So we are going to go right into their earnings reports, and hopefully we can see some estimates coming in for the next couple quarters. So first we'll look into this one and see how we're doing. So here we go. First international demonstration, completed a number of flights at a Toyota event, prototype aircraft rolling off the production line less than 3 months before they did it. So this is what they're looking at, electric air taxi. So honestly, like I said, this technology could possibly be groundbreaking. They reached a major landmark with certifying their first FAA aircraft, an aircraft tail, actually. Production prototype is nearing completion. Important progress was made with regulators in each of their targeted launch markets, which is good. I know regulations are one of the biggest killers of innovation, unfortunately, especially in this kind of sector with transportation, where I feel like there could be a lot more innovation, but regulations, especially with the FFA, are really slowing that down. Toyota is investing 500 million in the company, which is huge for them. Hopefully, that will lead to future partnerships for the company. Another thing is that they could possibly get bought out. I mean, they're really not, the market cap of the company isn't that high. So some kind of advanced technology like this, there's a lot of bigger companies that would likely want to get their hands on this. So I do believe that is a strong possibility. And then they just highlighted their strong financial situation, 710 million in cash and short-term assets, 222 million in equity raised, and Toyota investments with that 500 million we just talked about. So they do have a lot of cash. Their cash situation is perfectly fine. They should be able to sustain themselves for a while. And other than that, that is about it for the information there. We can see Possibly some earnings here, although I doubt it. R&D expense was higher than the estimate. EBITDA was also lower than the estimate. So nothing too much valuable information there. Other than that, that is about it. We'll get into the chart right here. So just looking here, it does look like they have been heading up a lot recently. This is on a weekly time frame over the past 3 years, actually closer to 4 years now as we head into 2025. But overall, I want to highlight that this is an incredibly high risk company. So while they are innovating and they are definitely making some technology that will has a very high chance of changing the world. Um, very, very high risk. And I would not doubt if it follows this kind of resistance line here and heads back down, just because I believe they are a bit of a long way off from seeing a fairly increased amount of value growth. There are value drivers for the company, but we have yet to see results from those. So that is definitely something to consider. um, for the terms of recommending whether or not to look into this for yourself, I would say, just based on where the stock price is, I would say a good buying range would be probably closer to $4 to $5 right now, just based on where the stock has been. Um, I really don't think it's a good time to look into this or purchase this at the elevated price it's at now, just because like I said earlier, with the sales revenue, and don't get me wrong, research and development is incredibly important, but eventually we will have to see results, and right now I just haven't seen any of that. Obviously there is a lot of potential here. Toyota invested $500 million in this company, so don't just take my word for it. Do your own research into this. But yeah, that is all I have here. Um, one last thing I do want to note with the technical side of this is if it does reach the upper band of this resistance level, we could see it possibly reaching up to $10, which only like a 13% increase from here, but I mean, it could possibly happen. Other than that, for the shorter term, again, it looks like on Friday they pushed the recent high and didn't hit it and drop back down. So that could possibly be a negative here where it might not be. And I say Friday, this is actually today. Um, I don't I don't know why I'm a little goofy, but this week, the 2 days this week that they were available, they have been pushing that all time high. It has, or not all time high, but recent high, but it has dropped down a little bit from there, but it is pushing that. So definitely something to pay attention to. I think if it breaks that $9.40 level, it could be going upwards towards 10, maybe 10.20, but I don't expect it to go much farther than that just based on where we are with the company. But overall, could be a nice short-term play, could see a resistance break there fairly soon, but definitely look into this more on your own, do some research. That's all I got for today. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I will see everybody in the next video.